Yeah, let's get it going. Let's get it pumped. Come on. Boom. Come on. Let's go. Lead A. Let's go. Go Duke. Let's go. Bang, 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 bang. Let's hit the gun. Yeah, let's go it on. Get into the chat. Got my man Sox Nation saying, let's go, Guns. Hit the horn for that man himself. Also, we got UNLV94 always joining us here. Bang, bang, bang. And we got the Candyman Cannon built in. It makes everything taste so good. A ka-chung, baby. A ka-chung. Let's get... Wow, we got Elite 8 now. Duke made it. Duke saved us last night. Man, the other picks were absolute dog turds. I get it. Creighton fell apart in the second half. 2 halves of basketball. You got to play it both. And, Marquette couldn't shoot the ball. Who knew Marquette couldn't shoot the ball? I'm hearing this conspiracy theories about overinflated balls. I'm going to ignore that, okay? But today is our day. New day, new book, and luckily we hammered Duke because Duke kind of saved the card on that one. Marquette did not. I'm not going to play any of these money line parlays either. I'm going to ignore that today. We have 2 games, 2 bangers. We're going to hit this hard and heavy, straight bets only. Let's cash some tickets. Let's start with the first game on the board. Of course, I'm wearing the hat. You may have a little bit of a hint where I'm going to be going with this game. But let's talk about the breakdown. Let's talk about the statistics. Where are these teams coming from into this game? Got to respect UConn, right? They're the national champions for a reason. And they're playing elite basketball in tournament time. They're 6th in defensive efficiency, 1st in offensive efficiency. They actually moved up into the number 1 slot, beating Illinois in the offensive efficiency in Ken Palm after the last game. Of course, Illinois did beat a Iowa State team with the number 1 offensive efficient defensive efficient team in the league. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. So they had a little bit of a drop off. They dropped down to number 2 in offensive efficiency, but they're 34th in field goal percentage, 17th in offensive rebounds, 107th on the free throw line. They've gotten better on the defensive side of the ball. I got to give them that since they've been in this tournament. 84th in defensive efficiency. I think they were in the 90s or even the hundreds before the start of this tournament. 44th in defending shots, 360th in creating turnovers. They're not a team that excels at getting the ball, steals, blocks, what have you. 64th in defensive rebounding, 34th in allowing opponents to get the free throw line. When you look at the tournament stats between these 2 teams, I think Illinois just had a better tournament versus bigger competition. Last game they played an Iowa State team that was absolutely red hot. They won their conference, the Big 12, 42.1, and they only shot 42.1% from the floor, 31% from 3, 51.7% from the line. Iowa State actually shot better in that game. They took a lead or double-digit lead at halftime. Illinois did. And lo and behold, Iowa State started creeping back, but they couldn't narrow the gap enough to get the W. And the difference of the game was Illinois just made more threes. They made 9 threes, and then Iowa State only made 3. Then they played Duquesne. They shot 59.3%, which is more of how this this Illinois team likes to shoot, and they shot 33.3% from the floors, and they dominated them in that game. So I think this is going to be key on this one, is them getting shots, getting looks. I saw it versus Iowa State. They moved the ball exceptionally well, and they had a lot of open looks. They didn't shoot great from the floor, but they're getting looks, and I think they can do that with this UConn team here. But when you look at UConn, everybody's like, oh, UConn this, UConn that. UConn's, crushing everybody. I'm like, who they played, really? I mean, they played San Diego State. San Diego State shot 46.2% from the floor, 38.5% from 3. I'm sorry, that was UConn stats offensively. So they didn't really shoot the ball very well in that game, but they shot 75% from 3, which is good for them. And then they held San Diego State to 22.7% from 3 and 36.2% from the floor. But you got to look at San Diego State. The Aztecs, where they came from, they struggled down the stretch in the month of March. They were 2-6 ATS in that run, and they basically just went into a lot of these games against inferior opponents and played to the level of their competition. They did get victories, but they lost some games they probably should have won. And I wasn't really high on this San Diego State team anyway. So, yeah, UConn probably should have, beat the stuffing out of them. And then they played Northwestern. Northwestern, another team that's been lackluster in the month of March, but they almost covered the spread backdoor style. They UConn did shoot 53.7% from the floor, 13.6% from three. So this team can struggle shooting the rock. And they lost in the second half, 40-35. They took a big lead. I think it was 40-18 in the first half, and then they just took the foot off the gas pedal and let this Northwestern team beat them in the second half straight up. Northwestern shot 37.3% from the floor and 26.7% from 3-point land, and the game was a lot closer, almost covering that spread in that game, like I said. But with Northwestern, they were 2-4 straight up down the stretch, anyways, in March. So what is UConn doing that makes it that impressive? I'm not taking away anything that UConn is. They're a very good team. They have the best guard quorum in the country. They have one of the best, clinging down low, that 7'2" monster down there is great. But I think the height and the strength and the length of this Illinois team is going to give them some fits in this one. And you got to look at Illinois. If you check their whole entire roster, they have not lost one game by 10 points. Not one. The most they lost was, I guess, Maryland on the road. Bad game for them. Bad spot somewhere in the middle of the week. Lost to them by 9. That was the worst loss that Illinois has taken. They play, even in all their losses, it's a very close and competitive game. And then you got to look at Illinois versus top 25 offensive efficient teams. They're 5-3 straight up with an average margin of victory of plus 3.4. Top 15 defensive efficient teams that they face, 5-3 straight up again with an average margin of victory plus 3.5. And I've noticed this one thing about UConn. They tend to play a lot of close games when they're playing against a team that can actually rebound to their caliber. Clingan's a monster inside, I'll give you that. But when you have another team that is ranked high and bangs the boards just like Illinois can, you can see some of these interests. St. John's is one of them. They're 4th in the country in offensive rebounding per KenPom statistics. They lost by 5 twice to them. They played them 3 times. And then you got to look at Seton Hall. What happened to them? Seton Hall beat UConn by 15 points in one of their games. Granted, they lost one of them in Connecticut by 30, but there are instances here, and St. John's and Seton Hall aren't at the level of Illinois at all. So why couldn't this game be close? Also, you got to look at some of the correlated efforts in this one. Under is 11-3 with UConn as a favorite between 7 and 15, and the under is has hit 6 out of the last 7 games on neutral floors in UConn games. And this is the second highest title that UConn has seen all season. I think the first was against Arkansas Pine Bluff when they were the total was 160. So if you look at those occurrences, when the total is 150 points or more, which this one is, the under is hit 5 out of 6 spots in UConn games. So I think the under is kind of correlated here. I think this is going to be a closer game than people expect. Everybody and their uncle thinks that UConn's just going to blow this Illinois team out of the water. I don't think so. I think this offense is a little bit higher caliber than what they've seen all season. Granted, they played North Carolina. North Carolina stayed with them. That was a high scoring game between those two teams, but that was early in the season. Marquette, Creighton, are these guys up to the caliber of Illinois as far as their offense? I can't say they are. So I'm going to be liking Illinois on this one. I'm going to take them 2 ways, okay? I'm going to split my units up. I got 2 units on this game. I'm going to take the game for a unit at plus 8.5 for Illinois. I'm going to take the first half plus 8.5 for another unit, and the under for 2 units, 155.5. So there is 4 units spread on that game. We're going to go Illinois game plus 8.5. First half plus 4.5, and the under 155.5. Firing guns early on the Breakin Ankles show. Woo! Let's get into the chat. Chat is smoking today. Sox Nation wants to go smack the books. I'll slap the book. How about that? Give him one of those. Michael joining us is a true disciple himself. What up, Guns? Purdue, baby. That's right. Hit the horn. I love that team. 7-1 ticket. 7-1 ticket. I also got a 30-1 ticket on Duke. I don't know if it's going to get there. Get me to the Final Four, and maybe I can hedge. All right. Buy hat is engaged. That's right. I have it on for a reason. I like Illinois today. going in here. Northwestern had two of their best players out against UConn. That's another good fact. I didn't write about that one. I should have talked about that one as well. And the game was a lot closer than that. Maybe it was one of those, look ahead kind of spots for UConn, trying to get out of the weekend, knowing that they were probably going to win that game. They could have just played, to the level of their competition, but doing enough to get the victory and not also get the cover for that matter. But I think this is one of those situations that we would be catching UConn in a bad spot versus this Illinois team that has played. They played the best defense in the country and won by 3. And it probably should have been better than that. If it wasn't for kind of a bad shooting spectacle for Illinois in the second half. Bob Candyman says +9 in my pocket. May have a sprinkle on the money line. I don't hate that. I don't think UConn's going to win this national championship. You know how hard it is to win in back-to-back national champions? It is extremely difficult. The last time it's happened is 05, 06 with Florida, and then it was Duke before that, and then it was UCLA before that. I mean, we're talking 70s at this point. Hard to do. Very difficult to go through an entire tournament and win it back-to-back years. Just saying. All right, let's go into the next game here. This is going to be the late night degenerate special here, 8:49 tip. Well, not that late. I mean, it's going to be in the evening. They're going to crypto.com arena, a.k.a. the Forum, a.k.a. Staples Arena, whatever you want to call it, Los Angeles, California, Alabama versus Clemson. This could be a good game. This Clemson team is playing out of their shoes right now, defensively. And I'm going to be riding them here again, baby. Give me my bye hat. I bought Clemson one more time. Feet don't fail me now. Just keep riding with the Clemson Tigers. Once again, I've had this hat on a lot. Like this team a lot, especially when they're away from their own home stadium. Break it down the teams here for a second. Let's go Bama on the offensive side. 4th in offensive efficiency, 12th in field goal percentage, 25th in offensive rebounding, and 22nd in free throw percentage. They have dropped a little bit in KenPom as far as the offense goes, which leads me to believe that this offense is having a little bit of a regression point here, because I think they were 3rd before the previous game. Now on the defensive side of the ball, they're 102nd in defensive efficiency, 108th in defending shots, 244th in defensive rebounds, 46th in defending 3. Don't get it twisted with Alabama. What you saw in that game versus UNC was a UNC problem, not a Bama played great defense problem. Then you got a very balanced team that they're going against here in Clemson, and they're playing their best ball now. And they played better competition than Alabama overall. I mean, you get UNC is a good one, but they've had to, play Baylor and play Arizona. But they're 24th in offensive efficiency, 32nd in defensive efficiency, 43rd in defending shots, and 56th on the defensive rebounds. They're also a great free throw shooting team, 10th in the country in that statistic. The key to this success, what is the success of this Clemson team? Every one of these games, they're playing these high-octane offenses in Arizona and Baylor. Defend the 3, defend the shots, make them miss, get the rebounds, and move the ball up the floor. Versus Baylor, 38.9% from the floor. Baylor had 25% from 3. This is the team that is ranked one of the top field goal percentage teams in the country. Then they go against New Mexico. They held them to 29.7% and 13% from 3. I discussed this in the previous cap on Thursday. Then they play Arizona, hold them to 37.3% from the floor and 17.9% from 3. This team is ranked 30th in offensive efficiency in the country. And then they're going against a Bama team. What do you think is going to happen in this one? I don't think it's a fluke that these teams are missing shots. I think it's because this Clemson defense is playing exceptionally well on the defensive side of the ball and contesting these shots. Bama has control. Basically, when you look at these Bama games and all these wins, it's because Bama is shooting exceptionally well. I mean, they shot 60% from the floor against Charleston. They didn't shoot well against Grand Canyon, and they almost lost that game outright as 6.5-point favorites. How they covered, I have no clue. 36.9% from the floor. They shot 25.8% from 3. But they had a Grand Canyon team that just had never been in that position before. They get in another shooting spree like that. That's trouble for them against Clemson, which I think could happen. They also shot 47.8% from the floor against UNC, 42.3% from 3-point land. But they should have got blown out in that game. UNC just completely fell apart in the second half and couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. The shot selection was terrible. RJ Davis is making bad shots. Nobody could hit hit the rim for that matter. That game, just take it out. This is a different type of situation here when we're talking about Clemson. Clemson can play nose to nose grind, beat you up kind of defense too. Clemson just impressive on neutral sites too. They're 6-1 straight up on neutral sites, and a lot of these spots they're a dog. They beat you know who they beat. I don't have to talk about it. New Mexico, Baylor, Arizona, TCU, UAB. Also, their road wins are impressive. They've also beat Bama before. Beat them in Tuscaloosa for that matter. UNC lost to Duke by 1. And then you got Bama versus top 25 offensive efficient teams, which this falls into the category for Clemson. 4-8 straight up, minus 5.7 margin of victory. So this is a team that loses outright to these opponents. And then on the defensive side for Bama, going against another top 25, even a top 30 defense, this is kind of falls just under the Mendoza line for Clemson, but still works and still applies. 4-6 straight up, minus 0.9 points per game margin of victory. But you got to understand, 2 of those games were against Mississippi State. If you throw those out, they beat Mississippi State by 30 in one of those games. Throw those out, it's minus 6.7 points per game. So this is a Bama team that should be losing to these opponents that are a little bit more balanced on both sides of the ball statistically. And like I said, these two teams met on November 28th in Tuscaloosa. Clemson beat them outright, 85-77 as 8-point road dogs. And now the line has completely dropped to 3.5. It's not gone up. It's not saying that this is a revenge spot for Bama to me. This is telling me that this is going to be another very, 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 very close game, or Clemson is going to win this game outright. The total in that game was 159.5. Today it's 100. The outcome of that game was 162, and now you're seeing the line here at 163.5. I kind of think this is going to stay low. If you're correlating it with what Clemson does and how Clemson controls the pace and how Clemson wants to play ball, they want to play their type of ball, and that indicates unders for them. The lowest total that Bama has seen, this is the lowest total, by the way, that Bama has seen in March. The lowest total before that was 172, and it's dropped to 163.5. That's another telltale sign that this is probably going to be a low-scoring game. So Clemson is also 7-3 straight up and 9-1 ATS in the last 10 games as a dog. 4-0 ATS as a dog on neutral floor. 6-1 straight up in their last 7 neutral site games. I just think Clemson should be able to win this game. Should be able to control the pace. If they're going to be controlling the pace, this indicates an under. It very much correlates. They're 6-1 to the under on neutral site games too for Clemson, and the under is 4-2 for Alabama when they are favored 6 points or less. So that's another type of thing. Everybody thinks overs for Bama, and overall resume, I would say yes. However, in windows, in line spread correlation, and total correlation, it is indicating that this is probably going to be a low-scoring game, in my opinion. So I'm going to be taking this 2 ways. I'm going to take Clemson plus 3.5 as my not 1, not 2, but 3-unit banger. And I'm going to be taking the under as well at 163.5, 2 units, shooting like I have an AK-47 with a bump stock, peppering the board, and smacking the books like smacked your mother's ass last night. Woo! Let's talk to the chat. Oh, man, I am pumped up for this one. Go Tigers. That's right. I said it like LSU, but whatever. The reason Bama won was UNC went 3-point crazy, not their game. They also, RJ Davis was trying to do too much himself, dribble drives and making stupid layups. And their 3-point shooting was just way off, and they weren't taking advantage of a bad on the ball type of defense that Bama is. Dribble drives. And Clemson loves to do that. They want to give the ball to PJ Hall inside and let him score, or let him have, their 2-point scoring is more impressive for them than their 3-point scoring. So I think this is going to be a mismatch here, especially inside for Bama. And I just think that in their last game, they kind of played above their pay grade on this one. Clemson will not do that. Correct. I agree with you on that one. Clemson's not the big 3-point shooting team. They want to take it inside. They want to bang with you, score, get rebounds. This is going to be a good game. I hope PJ Hall has a game of his life tonight, especially for the ticket that I'm holding here at +3.5. All right, to recap for anybody that's missing, and also 202 of you beautiful people watching me live here on a Saturday, right before tip-off. Like and subscribe to the GunzPicks channel, and you can follow me on all social media platforms. We're talking X at GunzPicks, TikTok at GunzPicks, Instagram at GunzPicks, LinkedIn. I don't know. But those are the three that I utilize. I put clips up. I do all my content, promotes, whatever. Those are the ones you want to follow. If you have those media platforms, please follow those at GunzPicks. Don't know the spelling. It's right there. I'm mirrored. There we go. All right. To recap for you, here we go. Illinois +8.5, 1 unit, and the first half for 1 unit +4.5, and the under. I like there as well. 155.5 for 2 units. And then we're going to end it off here with my top play, Clemson, +3.5 for 3 units, and the under 163.5 for 2 units. So those are the plays right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for this Saturday opening of the Elite Eight version of the March Madness. Of course, I'll be back tomorrow. We have 2 more games to be talking about. I will break those down, and I will have plays on those as well. But if we're going to do it, you got to hit the like button. I need 10. Can I get 10 likes on this video, please? I just want 10. I see 6, I see 7, and it makes me mad when I don't see 10. It's very easy. You just hit that little button over there that hits this thumbs up. Please like. Please subscribe as well if you don't do so. I love you all. Let's cash some tickets. Let's dominate the board. And as always, let's keep dancing. Bang.